The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello there, and thank you so much for joining the conversation on Ready, Set, Respond. I am your host, Carla Alicea. I'm the Director of Client Performance with Apartment Ratings and Satisfax, and I am so grateful to be here with you today and every month as we discuss topics impacting multifamily operations. As I've said before, these conversations are designed to have a little something for everyone, and I hope you and your colleagues will join in and participate in our audience polls and take away insights to expand your knowledge and your operations. At the end of this program, don't forget to head over to our Satisfax page on Facebook or Instagram, where you can add a comment and share your biggest takeaway from today's conversation for a chance to win a $50 gift card. We have a great program for you today. Coming up, our That's My Job guest, fresh off the NAA Apartmentalized stage, is our very own SVP of Education and Performance, Lia Nichole Smith. Now, Lia is a trend spotting thought leader with advanced theoretical and practical knowledge of solving challenges for conventional, affordable, senior, and student communities. Lia is on the NAA Apartmentalized Education Advisory Board. She's also an active member of the Atlanta Apartment Association's Education Committee. She's a highly sought after speaker of industry events across the country, and I am the lucky one who gets to work alongside her here at Satisfax. And let me tell you, she constantly just blows me away with her ability to interpret and analyze data and to create the narratives behind that data. And then not only that, brings them together with actionable recommendations that are implementable. Is that a word, implementable? You can actually take this advice and implement it to see real change. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to work with her. I call her the data whisperer. But today she has some suggestions for you marketers out there that I think is going to blow you away. But first, before we bring Lia out, you know the drill. It's time for our Ready, Set, Respond polls. We want to hear from you. So to participate, go ahead and scan that QR code on the screen or head on over to slido.com and enter the code 9545507. Once you get that up on your phone, when I get to that part, you're going to see a poll on your screen, and it'll be time for you to respond. Now, keep in mind that there are no right or wrong answers, not to our polls. There are just honest ones. So when you see that poll on the screen, be ready to respond with your feedback. All right, hope everybody's ready. We're going to get started. Our first poll question: are you currently leveraging from a marketing perspective, what makes your community stand out from the competition? Okay, now this one is not a poll. This is open text. So you can go ahead and enter in whatever it is that you think makes your community or one of your communities, if you're at the corporate level, stand out from their competition. What is that differentiating factor that sets you apart? All right, we've got our first response. They're saying customer service. Ooh, two saying customer service. Big floor plans, pools, multiple pools, location. Another one for service. Oh, customer service. We got a lot of customer service experts out there. Ooh, someone said branding. I think they've been really expanding the scope of branding for apartment communities in the last few years. That's been really exciting to see. We've got another one, customer service. Shout out to the maintenance team. Good stuff coming through. Community location. Location's a big one. What do they say in real estate? Location, location, location. Oh, this is an interesting one. Landscaping. That setting themselves out from their competition. I'd love to hear more about that. Good stuff, guys. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next poll. Okay, next poll. Are you currently leveraging operational data to inform your marketing efforts? So the answers are yes to some extent, yes extensively, no, but I'm interested in learning more, and no, we haven't explored it yet. So right now we've got out the gate with 12, we've got 67% saying yes to some extent. They are leveraging operational data. Still a few of you out there saying no, wanting to learn more. We're going to definitely share a lot about that today during our conversation. 24% saying yes extensively. We're down to about 60% yes to some extent. Good stuff. All right. This is definitely an interesting bag of responses. So I think this is a great time to bring out our guest. Lia, welcome to the conversation. What do you think about these responses?
I love it. I love all of it. I love the how quickly everyone's responding because you know that everybody's tuned in, kind of dialed into the conversation. Pretty interesting stuff when you're asking about the differentiator between the communities that are on the call and their competitors. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you and I have been talking about this topic for a while. And when we first got to talking about using operational data in marketing, we had a lively discussion about the silos that have historically existed in multifamily operations. So in your experience, you were on site before you joined Satisfax and you were in corporate operations. How would you describe the level of collaboration, say, between a marketing department and an operations team?
yeah, I think it's always a challenge. I kind of compare it to if you're looking at on-site teams, getting maintenance and the office teams to speak the same language, right? They often
Mm-hmm.
operate in sort of silos, and we get a lot of education out there about getting those two teams to work together, to communicate better, streamline their processes and kind of define who does what, who's responsible, for what on site. I think when you're looking at the corporate level, in my experience, it's pretty much the same. Marketing, I was director of marketing and training, and my role was very well defined. And if you're looking at this slide, I was 100% in that, that marketing bucket. My job was to drive traffic, make sure conversion rates were as optimum as possible. Everyone was hitting their goals and, turning those leads into leases and, making sure that, we were hitting our numbers in terms of occupancy and lease percentages. And I didn't see a lot of overlap, like collaborating with the operations team onto how to make that happen. Our operations team was all about, the stuff that's on the right: driving revenue, resident retention, filling vacant positions that are on site that could impact those two things. So what I love in terms of this industry is how we have all started to sort of evolve. We're not at the point yet where we are fluent in each other's tasks and each other's duties and really kind of understanding the push and pull of it all. But where I think management companies could benefit is understanding that marketing and operations work like bookends. Like imagine you have a row of books that are on a shelf. And if you have a bookend on the right, which is the operations, fantastic, but it's not going to do the job, the books are going to fall over to the left. They both have to kind of work together. So,
In parallel.
yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where learning to speak each other's language and most importantly, understanding each other's jobs are hugely important. And just like on-site teams, those that operate very efficiently, they know how to do that. Like on-site office professionals understand the task and the burdens and, sort of the day-to-day for their maintenance teams, and maintenance understands what's happening inside of the office. And so they complement each other. I think, adopting some of that up at the corporate level is only going to be beneficial. I think, again, when you're talking about using operational data, there's so much of it now. Everybody's doing surveys, everybody's getting resident feedback. Even employee feedback can help you in marketing your communities.
Yeah, absolutely. At a much higher level, there was an article that was published in the Texas CEO magazine not that long ago, and it talked about the imperative for growth, how the CMO and the CEO need to align. And I've definitely experienced that myself, that when operations and marketing get together, yeah, that's maybe dating me a little bit, let's get together. But when they do, magic happens. And so I think that, what can organizations do to break down those barriers? And what do you think some of those common barriers are? What are some of those challenges that you've observed that actually hinder the effective collaboration between these departments?
Yeah, I think they all answer to a different higher up in a lot of cases, right? Sometimes when you're talking about operations, it's owners, investors, there's kind of a different crowd that they are catering to. But it would be amazing. Like, think about it if marketing created a campaign that solely centered around resident retention, or if operations created something, a plan, a strategy that's solely focused on driving traffic. Like, these are two opposite worlds, but
Yeah,
if they kind of, stepped into each other's shoes and realized, where those opportunities are, and kind of bring a little something to the table, I mean, the ground is like primed. It's, fertile. It's like that low-hanging fruit that we talk about all the time, that can really set a brand apart from all of the other management companies that are out there. And
absolutely.
just kind of looking at it from that collaborative standpoint, I think can be, just really helpful. And blurring the lines between the two. Sometimes you have meetings where it's just about marketing, and it's those that are kind of in that world are in that room, or it's like those that are in that operation side, you may not have a marketing voice that's in that room. And so having more of a crossover, we see it all day with our clients, and you can tell that when that collaborative spirit is alive and it's working really well, the difference that it makes.
Yep, absolutely. Collaboration, empathy for one another, understanding the different challenges. These are all things that help us move our operations forward and bring us together as a team. Well, when trying to visualize, I was thinking about operational data in marketing. How do we visualize that? Now, I initially thought of social proof, right? The data such as what you would find on a review site like apartment ratings. So Lia, in your experience, what types of operational data actually matter to our prospects?
I think you need to break the data down, right? Because you have so many different needs and expectations of prospects. So you may have someone who is moving because they just got the renewal notice and they can no longer afford the rent. You may have someone who's moving because they just can't get anything fixed in their apartment, or they can't get anyone to call them back. People are moving for very different reasons. And so being able to tap into the different motivators or triggers for someone needing to move, I think that's where the power lies. Because if you wanted to say, we're rated 4.5 or 4.7 on Google, that is a very generic rating. It looks great, right? It's going to help you pass sort of the first filter when someone is considering your community. But what if my concern is maintenance? So being able to market in terms of operational data that you have the highest rated maintenance in the city, that's my trigger. I'm good.
Yeah.
Sign me up, sign me up. Or if, there's something that you can tout about your neighborhood, your location. Uh, you know, we have a lot of renters now that are moving for jobs out of state. They're relocating. They're coming from one area to the other. They may not even know what's happening, what's going on. And if you have a great neighborhood rating, I think that, is something that you can market as well. So when we're talking about marketing beyond the basics and using operational data, what that means is the basics, that's your product. So as we looked at when we were talking about the poll, amenities, your landscaping, even customer service to some extent. Customer service, this is perfect example. Break it down. Is that maintenance? Is it office? Is it the entire resident experience? A noise rating. I love that, in here where we're showing 4.5 out of 5 for overall quietness. Using those kinds of words and the data in conjunction with those words really is going to strike an emotional chord with people who maybe aren't getting that at their, where they're currently living.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is actually what I love about apartment ratings, is because it does break down that data very specifically. And the other thing that I noticed about apartment ratings is that oftentimes as a community team, as a manager, as a leasing agent, you inherit a new company or you come into a property. Maybe there were some issues there before and your Google rating is at a 3.0 and you've already got 200 reviews, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to move the needle? How am I going to communicate through my online reputation, through the social proof, that we have a new team here, that we are customer service oriented, when it takes so long to change those renter ratings? And what apartment ratings does is a team has 365 days in which they can start completely fresh. So what that means is reviews only factor in to these scales, whether it's your Epic or your national ranking, over the last 365 days. So every day your score is adjusting and getting better and better. And it's so much quicker for teams to manipulate, I think, in a good way, right? Through their positive customer experience and resident experience and online feedback that they're gathering to show that social proof. And I think this screenshot has a lot of really great data on it that could definitely be used, in a community's marketing. So in your opinion, what are some of the key benefits or advantages of using, say, the Epic score from apartment ratings to enhance a community's online reputation compared to other sources?
Yeah, I think the big thing when you're talking about Epic is the breakdown that we just saw on the other slide. That right then and there, because you can really, again, hit those emotional chords with renters based on what matters most to them. I think when you're looking at those that are coming to tour community and you know that you're not going to get the lease on the first visit, they've already said, well, I got a couple more places that I want to look at. That's where you throw in, check us out, check out our Epic index in comparison to the other communities that you're, going to be visiting. Because again, if you're trying to seal the deal with a generic metric, that kind of overall, score or that overall star rating, you may not be as competitive. Everyone may be in that 4.2 to 4.7 range, which is, by the way, the most trusted star rating range for consumers. Anything that's, 4.2 to 4.7, they feel like that company or that brand is pretty solid. That product is pretty solid. So if you can compete in a lot of different ways to step outside of that just overall data point. That one data point holds very little power and sway than having multiple data points that kind of confirm what you guys already know to be true. You know you have great customer service. You know that you have a great maintenance team. We saw that during the poll. So being able to throw numbers behind it, what that does is it just adds verification and validation to what you already know is true.
Now, so how have you seen communities effectively leveraging this data and say the Epic score to differentiate themselves in the market and attract renters? What have you seen being done?
The big thing is the be back. I think that's where Epic has the most power, and the on the fence. I'm trying to decide which way to go. Should I pick community number 1 or should I pick community number 2? That's where Epic, in my opinion, has the most power. I think what people generally find out about you online during their initial search will help you make it past the first filter. That's what we call the before zero moment of truth. It's just, I'm going to be looking around, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I haven't called anyone yet. I haven't visited a community yet. I'm just kind of checking out things, So what they're finding at that stage, I think, if you're at that 4.2 to 4.7 on Google, or you have, great reviews on, any other review site, I think you're pretty safe. It's going to help you get past that point. But it's when it comes to deciding, this is the place I want to live. This is the community. This is the management team that I'm going to give my money to every single month. To me, that's where Epic has the most power. And the best thing about Epic right now, I'm not going to say this is going to happen in the future, but right now, your Epic index, if you are number 1 in your city, if you are, highly ranked across the nation, or if you even just have an A+, I'll take an A- at this point, because an A- is still a great bet in terms of someone deciding yes to live at your community. Those are the things that you want to draw attention to, draw your prospects' attention to, and it works all the time. We see communities that, will tell us they came back because of our Epic index, because we were an A and everyone else was a B or a C. So again, you don't have to be at an A+, you don't have to be like super high ranked and things like that. It's just making sure that your prospect is aware that, you have this, to your point, Carla, that social proof. You have enough residents who have vouched for you. You have enough residents who have received the type of service and experience that's worth talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I took that screenshot from earlier of a community's Epic breakdown, and I did my best at creating a social campaign. I used Canva and my very elementary design skills, and I kind of tried to come up with what would this look like? What could a campaign look like? Lia, what do you think? How did I do?
I think you did great. I think you did great. And again, tapping into the individual motivators of individual renters. I think where our marketing and even operations tend to fall short in some cases is where you generalize everything. Yeah. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I think for me, the one that really stood out was work from home, because I work from home. A lot of people work from home these days. I know our industry, there are certain jobs where you can't work from home. You physically have to be in a space. But I think more and more companies are going in a remote route. And I'm imagining that renters probably value quiet. You know, they're working, they don't want the dog barking, they don't want the lawnmower going, they want to know that they're living in a quiet community. So that was a fun one. And then anytime I think, you know, you have an opportunity to give a shout out to that maintenance team, a 4.8 rating. You know, they're the ones keeping everything working, keeping everything running, keeping that value proposition high, you know. So I thought that was a good one as well. Well, guys, Lia recently just spoke at NAA's Apartmentalized Conference. She had 2 sessions, but there was one session I really wanted to talk to her about, and it was her bold predictions for 2025. And kind of along those same lines of people working from home, she did, and she crunched the numbers, she looked at the data, and she determined that there is a rise of the homebody. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these bold predictions and ask Lia, what key insights or findings did you uncover during your research that led to the identification of this new renter segment?
Yeah, so homebody. Let me just put it out there. I am a homebody. I am 100% a homebody. I like the comfort of my house. Homebodies in the past were like kind of given this negative stigma of being antisocial, and we didn't necessarily want to go out in public and things like that. 2020, and I know everyone's probably tired of hearing 2020, but when it comes to marketing, renters, the resident experience, 2020 is really the year that has changed the game for everybody. Those who were diehard extroverts, they were always outside of their homes, had a completely different experience. And so even the introverts, our experience has changed, with how we lived in our homes. So over the past few years, what we started to see is that there was a shift in the sentiment surrounding the concept of a homebody. It's no longer this antisocial person, this hermit that likes to stay tucked away. There have been independent studies that show that we have and will continue to experience more waking hours in our homes than ever before. There's also a projected increase in the number of people who are going to be working from home all the way through the year 2025. And because we had that moment between 2021, dare I say 2022, we've kind of built some habits for ourselves, how we like to live in our homes, the things that we now do on the weekends. Even those extroverts that we talk about all the time, they've created a safe little, nook inside of their homes and the way that they live in their homes. And NAA and NMHC released a study not too long ago that said by the year 2025, there's going to be almost 25 million renter households. That is insane when you think about the number of people that will be living in apartments. So when you think about all of that, the change in sentiment, how we live, how we work, how we use our spaces, what that really does is create new marketing targets for our management companies. So it's no longer like looking at renters from a product kind of standpoint. It's looking at renters now from a personality standpoint, and not just the what are they going to be doing in their apartments, but what are their expectations now inside of their apartments. And so knowing that homebodies are going to include both introverts and extroverts and all the things that happen inside of the 4 walls, I think again it behooves us to look at how do we speak to these new crops of renters in a different way.
Yeah, and you kind of broke down based off of that methodology. You identified what you called 5 psychographic segmentations that relate to this topic. So I think what we're going to do is guys, we're going to play fact or fiction now, and I'm going to read you some statements, statements that relate to these 5 psychographic segmentations. Now, Lia knows the answers. So this is all for the audience, guys. This is a fact or fiction just for you. And then after each one, Leah's going to let us know a little bit about why that statement relates to one of these 5 segmentations, and she'll reveal them throughout the game. So to get ready, let's make sure we get back on to Slido. Get your phones back up or your Slido screens back on, and then I'll go ahead and read these statements, and you need to tell me and Lia, if this statement is true or if it is false. All right.
Yes, and I promise not to play.
Exactly. Lia knows the answers. All right, let's get going. Okay, our first fact or fiction, according to a recent Bright Local survey, the majority of consumers value the words over the star rating in an online review. All right, we've got 5 respondents, 7 respondents. We'll give it a little bit more time so everybody can get their vote in. Do we think this is fact, or do we think this is fiction? All right, let's see what we've got. All right, this is interesting. It's almost split. We've got right now 57% saying they think it's fact, 47 fiction, 53-47. All right, we got
So
15.
the answer is fact. And this is something that Bright Local has been tracking for the last 3 years. And the trend continues to get stronger and stronger. Right now, it's at 79% value the actual word in a review, the words, as opposed to the star rating. And the reason being is that the words themselves are descriptive. The star ratings, maybe not. If you look at Amazon, for example, you have a star rating and then you have a story. You look at apartment ratings, you have a star rating and a story. Google, all of that. So imagine that you have a 5-star review and the story itself says, love it. That's all it says. It's 5-star, love it. Or you have a 1-star and it says, hate it. And that's it. Love it or hate it. To someone who is trying to make a buying decision, that is a tough sell because they don't quite know what do you love or what do you hate about that product or that thing, or dare I say that apartment that someone is, potentially considering. So one of the psychographics for our bold predictions of 2025 is that what we know or what we believe to be true is that renters in the year 2025 are going to be hyper tribalized. What that means is that they are going to want to live around people that are like them. So they want to know how someone feels about maintenance, how someone feels about the office, neighbors, just the whole experience in general. And your residents right now today are going to be your tribal leaders. These are the ones that are going to have the stories that hopefully are compelling enough to get a renter to say, yes, I want to join that tribe.
Yeah. I think also I'm recalling an earlier episode of Ready, Set, Respond where we talked about review fraud and how that has become rampant. It's much easier, I would assume, to tweak with that star rating. But the stories that are being told, I think that, consumers are having these adverse effects. So they're more interested in those stories to really get to the bottom of where is my tribe? Who are these my people? Is this my place?
Yeah,
Right.
and I think too, because the words, the stories matter more than the stars. A perfect 5-star review with no words is just as impactful in a negative way as a 1-star review with no words. You know, they hold no value to someone who is potentially considering a community. Now, I'll take a 5-star review with a great story all day long. All day long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. We'll take it all day long. So it's not saying don't shoot for a 5-star review. It's you want that experience to be at a level that people can't help but talk about it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. All right. Let's go to our next statement. Okay, guys, fact or fiction? Renters in 2025 will actively seek out paperless communities for a new home. What do we think? We've got one person responded to. We'll give it a few more. 5. Let's see if we get up to, we had about 15 people before. Let's wait until we get there. Actively seek out paperless communities for a new home. All right, let's see what we've got.
All right, this one's a little bit clearer, right? It's not
Yeah,
as much on the fence.
we're
And
not so ambiguous about this
yeah,
one, are we?
yes, it's a pretty strong pull. So what we know about renters in 2025 is that they will be technology fluent. They have had 5 years, or will have had 5 years with advanced technology. It's no more trying to figure it out. It's just commonplace. It's at the point right now where they get it. I think it still chuckles me when I forget to take myself off of mute on a conference call because I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, you should know this by now. You should, and so those little snafus are still going to happen. But in general, even when you're looking at age, the eldest of renters, the eldest of consumers are still more technologically advanced by 2025 than if you looked 5 years back in 2020.
I know I
So
can't keep
tech
my mom
fluent.
off Amazon.
Yes, yes. If I can get my mom to stop saying the Facebook and the Google, I think we'll be okay. That's that's where she is. But
Absolutely.
she still she knows what to do when she's on the Facebook and on the Google. But yes, so there are a lot we all are as an industry, or excuse me, as a population a lot further along. And then you need to think about this. In the year 2025, we're going to have the newest generation becoming renters. These are digital natives. All they know is technology. They don't know anything about paperless, or excuse me, paper. They don't know anything other than DocuSign and being able to pay it for everything online and transactions online. So renters in the year 2025, they will be deterred if a community does not allow digital transactions for every aspect of their experience. Every
Absolutely.
aspect. So if you think about anything that your residents need to sign for now, sign for a package or sign out for pool passes, their leases, all those kinds of things. This is that moment where you start to source those technology companies and opportunities to
Solutions.
really push your processes along.
Yep, get rid of those paper logs. I used to have a compliance officer talked about binders, binders, binders. There was a binder for everything. And now it's servers, 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 right? We want to save everything in the cloud.
Yes, a friend of mine is at a school district in Tennessee, and she sent me a picture yesterday of a manual that she's going through, and it is paper, and it looked like a volume. I mean, it just looked like an entire ream of paper. And I
Oh
told
my
her, I said,
gosh.
I would be asleep before I even finished the table of contents. I would be out. I couldn't do it.
Exactly, exactly. All right, moving on to our last fact or fiction. The majority of consumers could discontinue relationships with companies that treat the environment, employees, or the community in which they operate poorly. I really like this one. We talk a lot about ESG efforts, right? Environmental and social and governments. And, I've always said consumers vote with their dollars, right? So are we at the point now where the majority of consumers are doing that? What do you think? Is that fact or is that fiction? All right, let's see. Let's see what we've got. Oh, overwhelmingly, 91% say this is fact.
Yes, I love it. And the number right now is actually 76%. 76% of consumers say that they will drop a business that has any kind of angst towards the environment, their employees, or even the community. And you all have seen this happen. You have seen companies that, might have a little bit of a misstep when it comes to ESG or diversity and equity inclusion type of practices, and the public will revolt. They will revolt against them. They will go to a competitor. They are renters in the year 2025. Again, if we look at the past to kind of predict the future, they are going to be conscientious consumers. They are going to want to only put their money behind companies that have a hand in and are invested in social matters, social policies and things that matter most to them. So when you're looking at ESG practices, when you're looking at DEI equals B type of practices, it's more than just saying, this is what we stand for. It's what does your hierarchy look like? What are some of the causes that your company supports? The training, the opportunities that you give to your employees, the experience that you give to your renters. All of that is going to be important. So when I look at the bold predictions, here are some of the other bold predictions that I made during that session. Hyper-personalized. I don't know anyone here, and maybe I might be wrong, who has not said, you know what, I think I might check out that recommendation on Netflix, or I might check out that recommendation on Amazon for a book or for an item, that based on something that I've purchased in the past. This is how we live. We take suggestions from companies based on the things that they know to be true about us. And so that hyper-personalization is going to extend, that expectation is going to extend to the renter experience. Like, I want you to know me just like Netflix knows me, or just like Amazon knows me. They know who I am to the extent where they can cater and tailor the experience for me. The only way, when it comes to hyper personalization, the only way that we can do that as an industry is if you have team members on site that are steady. They are stable. They are there. It's not that revolving door all the time. Each new person that comes on site, that's a new relationship that needs to be created, that needs to be developed and built. So if you're able to retain your employees, keep them there for the long haul, to where it's the familiar faces. They know me, they see me. It's not just about knowing their names anymore. It's about that hyper personalized service. And then I think the other prediction, number 5, that's on the horizon, and this is something that not only the national realtors have determined, but Zillow did an independent report, is that first-time home buyers are going to regain, it's predicted, they're going to regain market share by the year 2025. So if any of you out there have ever been first-time home buyers, think about the excitement that went around buying your first home. When you have that enthusiasm, that excitement, that that future thinking, I'm at a place where I can now stop paying rent and go buy my own place. It's going to be really tough to reel back in that excitement. So what we need to do now today is to secure your back door by tracking the right metrics. And in that session, one of the things that I talked about was looking at your renter in terms of 3 metrics. How do they find you? So your lead source. Why are they renting? Your lease source, which is often very different from your lead source.
Yeah,
So
they're
they
not
may
renting at your community because they found you on apartments.com, right?
exactly,
They found
exactly.
you on apartments.com. They're renting at your community because you have large floor plans that meets their budget and it's a quiet community. You know,
Yeah, or
whatever the
your
trigger point
maintenance is
was for
top
them.
rated. Yeah,
Yeah.
your maintenance
Hmm.
is top rated, right?
Hmm.
So the lead to lease, those are 2 metrics that have to like be done. Like we got to figure that part out. And then the third metric is the leave metric. So why is that person leaving? So they found you on Google. They leased because of your floor plans, we'll just say that, and they're leaving because the rent increased. I'm just going to throw that one out there. If you're able to capture those 3 metrics from the same renter, what you want to attach that to is tenure. So how long did that person stay? So they found us on Google, they leased because they liked the floor plan, they left after a year because the rent was too high. Or they found us on Google, they rent because of our Epic index, and they're leaving because they bought a home after 2 years. If you're able to capture that type of operational data, what that does is it's going to help shape a more well-informed marketing strategy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. Good stuff. I loved that session. Guys, this is Lia. If you want to connect with her on LinkedIn, please feel free to scan that QR code. Also, if you would like a copy of the NAA presentations, the slides for bold predictions for 2025, and the rise of the homebody, make sure to complete that closing survey. There's a question on the closing survey where you can enter your email address if you would like a copy. So before you log off, make sure to complete that closing survey, and we'll get that copy out to you shortly. Lia, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're always so full of just so many great takeaways. I am sure we're going to have a lot of Facebook comments and Instagram comments with some of the really interesting pieces of what you shared with us today. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I've never been a guest speaker before. So
on our webinars.
Oh, yeah, so I love it. And thank you. Thanks for asking me. And I hope
Absolutely.
the information was helpful. I hope, and again, anyone wants the entire presentation, please do the closing survey. Happy to share that with you as well.
Wonderful. So guys, right now, head on over to Instagram and Facebook. Tell us about your biggest takeaways from today's conversation about marketing beyond the obvious. All entries are due by 5 p.m. Pacific tonight for a chance to win that $50 gift card, and our judges are standing by. Also, don't forget to register for our next conversation. Go to satisfax.com/webinars. In July, we're going to talk all about pets with Victoria Howard, the Director of Education and Outreach for Pet Screening. All right, all good things must come to an end. We've reached the end of our program. Do me a favor and help our program improve by completing that closing survey before you log off. Your feedback is important to me. Thank you for joining the conversation. I'm Carla Alicea. We'll see you next time.